some 9-ounce cloth. I've worked with carbon fiber before, never with fiberglass. Avoid the air gap situation. And I thought, oh, all right, this is interesting. Okay, so this turned out a lot better than I hoped. Okay, in my garage today, the weather that we were supposed to get last week did not do as predicted. We were supposed to get many warm days, and we did not, which has been kind of my theme for the entire winter during my winter projects. Today is the first decent day we've had. As you can see, the sun's out, relatively warm, and I can't go down to the marina today. So what I'm going to do is take advantage of the window I've got here and epoxy up in fiberglass my gussets that were cut out. The only concern I have, I'd rather do this down at the marina. However, like I said, I don't know when the weather window is going to close, and the only concern I have is that there might be a little bit of trimming that still needs to be done. They fit pretty well, but once you add the layers of fiberglass, one, maybe two at the most is all I'm going to do. That's going to add some height and some girth, so I might have to trim that off and re-glass over top. Okay, so these are my pieces, my gussets. All right, I definitely can do bilge and bilge 1 and 2 for the centerboard, bilge starboard and port for the centerboard, and then bilge 2, which is underneath. Sorry, I mislabeled these. Bilge 1, which is underneath. There really should be bilge 2. Now, bilge 3 is wet. It's spruce, or not spruce, it's Douglas fir. It smells great, very aromatic, but it's wet. So I'm not sure, I'm gonna do some reading on that and see if it's okay. It's not treated. If not, I'll leave it out in the sun today and see if that helps at all. Now, I'll be using these two products, which were available at a local fiberglass shop in the area. So shout out to Michigan Fiberglass, which is where I purchased this. Usually I use Total Boat, but I was there buying the glass and they gave me a deal on this stuff. So 2-to-1 hardener, it is medium, which means I should have plenty of time to get it laid up today before it starts to set. And I'll lay them out there in the sun on some red Solo cups as they cure. I'm going to be using some 9-ounce cloth, which is it's a weave, and primarily this is going to be sealing out moisture. It will add some structural support, so I might put 2 layers on. But primarily it's to seal out the moisture. The strength is going to come from the wood itself when I epoxy it into the hull. So I'm going to draw patterns on that first, cut them out, and lay them down. Okay, sorry about the angle. I left my tripod down at the harbor, and well, this is sort of the 1960s Batman camera angle. You have to bear with me a little bit. So this is the weave, and I've worked with carbon fiber before, but never with fiberglass. So I'm one of those people that tends to procrastinate until, it's something new that I don't have any experience with. And during that time, I try to read as much as possible until finally I kind of just get frustrated. I'm like, screw it. The only way to figure out how to do this is to do it. So I'm not going to be vacuum infusing. This is just going to be a hand layup. I'm not laying up a new hull, so there's really no need to vacuum infuse. I'll say this though, it's easy to work with so far. It's very easy to cut. Carbon fiber, not so much. this next block, I'm going to be just tracing out the sides without the edges in order to avoid the air gap situation. Okay, so this is what we're left with. Now I just need to wait and see how they cure. It's going to be a holy mess to, well, I mean, I'll be sanding that off, those edges. And it'll probably stick to the cups. Should be alright. But like I said, this is not cosmetic, strictly protective. I'm going to make mistakes. This is where I want to make it. So I'm back. It's April 20th. I think. So we're getting closer and closer to boating season, and things are beginning to come together. What I'm going to be doing today is the gussets that I was working on in previous videos. Ideally, I'd like to get them epoxied in today and filleted in. The only issue is that I don't think the boat is entirely level, at least not when I put a leveling ruler on the navigation-based table. It showed me that it was a little bit off. So I brought a much longer level with me, and I'm going to try to level these up as close as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you know, by the same token, I don't want to feel like I'm walking on an angle.
That was a nice image.
So that's what I got going today. I also have the port side settee supports, bulkheads basically is what they are. They just don't go all the way up. They've been glassed. You saw me do those in a previous video. And like an idiot, I glassed the 3 throwaway blanks that I had. So it's just the mistake that keeps on giving. I cut them out opposite to how they needed to fit. So they were useless to me as gussets or bulkheads, and I ended up glassing them in. So I wasted a little bit of epoxy and glass on that. Now I'll put them in the scrap pile, and I'll probably be able to reuse them on something like a backing plate or a mount for a piece of hardware. They're already epoxied in half, glass on one side. So I got up on the boat and I saw in the stern the pieces that I had cut for the starboard side right there, and I thought, oh shit. So this is what's going in today, and I'll leave them here for the week. Weather has been unstable in terms of temperature. I've got a winter formula for my epoxy resin, so I have the entire week to set up before I'm back next week. And then next week I'll make a decision as to whether or not I'm going to glass them in to the hull. If I can go ahead and do that, because once that's done, then I can't change. I mean, I can, but it'll be a colossal waste of time and materials and money. All right, this is interesting. When I cut the patterns for these gussets, I wanted to cut them down far enough where I would allow some about a 1/4 inch on top for the actual cabin floor when it gets put in. I didn't want it to rise above the existing lip where it fit in before. I want it to be flush. And this is what I'm getting right now. Okay, I've got this end of the level sitting on top of where I want the floor to join and be flush, okay? And it's about a 1/4 inch. Now, this is sitting directly on top of the gusset, and I've got my gap there where the floor needs to go. And as you can see, that's pretty close, but the floor is not going on top of the old floor, it's going on top of this gusset here. And I've got a nice gap there to make room for the floor coming in. So at the very least, I'm going to have to put some shims under this on this side. But here's what I don't understand. When it's resting there and there on both sides, okay, that's how far I'm off, which makes sense because I did leave a gap, and this is how far it has to rise in order to get into the level zone. But when I move it up further up, I'm much closer here, and it's lying flat here, and it's lying flat there. And I don't want to go much further. I don't want to take anything off of this because I'm already just a little bit above the centerboard trunk, which is where I want to be because that's where the floor is ultimately going to come across. So I'll have to figure out a way to raise that one side without throwing off the other portions of the gusset that seem to be almost level on their own. I'm stymied. I don't want to cut it in two, but I might have to. I'm already going to have to cut that one in two in order to get it underneath the head there and fit where it needs to go. I really don't want to cut that one in two. And I don't want my floor to be high in some places and low in others, that to the extent that it's, noticeable to the person that's standing on it. All right, well, I think I reached a compromise here. When I said the boat wasn't level, I meant from port to starboard. Fore and aft, it's level. Assuming that my table is level there. I'll trust the boat builders and engineers at Tartan, at McLeod, Stevens. But there's my issue side to side. And that's not much. So I don't have a 1/4 inch ply with me. So I strapped together some paint stirring sticks. And until I had approximately a 1/4 inch to simulate what ply is going to look like. And according to where I have this shinned up, that's pretty close. There's a bit of a lip right there, but a little bit of sandpaper can't keep her. And the gap on this side increased quite a bit. So I'm glad I saved the shavings the last time I was here. These are the trim pieces that I took off. I'm going to be using those as shims to try to fill in some of that gap there. And I'm going to keep this particular board at this level, which is level on this end here. Now, this side is a little bit lower. I'm raising it slightly on that end, but I'm fairly pleased with where this one is going in. I think that's as close as I'm going to get, absent more professional tools. Okay, so this turned out a lot better than I hoped. That is a pretty good fit. Got a little bit of a gap there. Glass in, and again on the bottom. But yeah, that'll work. Now, this is the piece I had to cut in two, so this is the other half. All I need to do is fit this one to go there, and then epoxy everything down. So, and it looks like the shims are going to work pretty well on the remaining gussets. So maybe I overestimated the leveling issue, but it looks like it's going to work out. Okay, so I tried using a hot glue gun on the bottoms of my settee gussets, and didn't really work. So I had some leftover butyl tape. It seems to keep them standing. And the only reason I'm doing this is I need to see how level or not level they are. And this is where, so I've got this coming up here like that, and this one like this, and we're doing here. Not so much. Less I do. Okay, so it's got to come up like that. But I've got my issue with the plywood top. So, I mean, that's a good inch, maybe more. I think what I'm going to do is all of these need to be flush at the top here, because that's where my top cover is going to go, the part that actually makes up the bench. So I'm going to use that as a guide and maybe prop them up at the bottom. Okay, I'm actually pleased. This is my pleased look. Doing those patterns with the popsicle sticks actually turned out to work well. This is the culmination of the last several weeks of work, and using that lip as sort of my guide in terms of how these things should be leveled. This one I don't have set up yet, but I put the orange ruler on these, and I got something I'm fairly pleased with. There we go. That's not bad. No. In there. Now there's a bit of a discrepancy. If I put this here, level, but I'm off a little bit here. I can fix that with some shims. Or just move it a little bit further up the wall. That should be enough to deal with that. I have a little bit of balled up butyl tape I'm using just to keep these in place for now. But that's gonna work. Not bad. I'll do the same with this one. I tap them in, epoxy them in. I'll have 5 watertight compartments here for storage under the waterline. And that's what I was looking for. That's what I wanted. So it's not warm enough to mess around with any epoxy today. And I have to glass the opposite sides of these. So these are coming home with me to get glassed. These I'll leave here where they are, but yeah, I guess I did a better job than I thought. Got myself on the back. Still have to come up with a solution for this. What I want to do there with the mask step is maybe sand away all those jagged edges and fill that in with some thickened epoxy, and then close up that hole underneath there, and then run the drainage PVC pipe all the way through, probably on the starboard side. I'll branch it there where there's 2 places to drain. All right, so with the rest of my time today, I'm going to try putting on some of the tow rail that I cut out of Trek's decking board. Havana Gold is the style, and I'm going to be using butyl tape to put that on. Now, the reason why I'm doing that is if it doesn't wear well or I don't like it, I want it to be easy to remove, and that will make it easy to remove. Remains to be seen. Once the individual pieces are screwed in, all the butyl tape is doing really is, it doesn't need to be an adhesive. All it's doing really is sealing out the water. So that's how I'm going to do it. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't, you can avoid the expense and the hassle and do it probably the old-fashioned way.